Good afternoon, students. Now, today we will study history in history, chapter 3. We will do chapter 3, Sultans of Delhi. And in this chapter, we will learn about the different dynasties. Okay, different dynasties. These dynasties were known as the Delhi Sultanate. Okay. So, in your books, it is categorized. Open page number 22, chapter 3, Sultans of Delhi. Okay, so five dynasties given in your book. So these dynasties that existed in India from the time 1206 to 1526. Okay, so the period from 1206 to 1526. Remember the term, it's in your book also. So this period is known as the period of Delhi Sultanate. Okay, so we will get the informations of the Delhi Sultanate, Sultans of Delhi, or the different types of dynasties through different sources. You know what are the sources? Yes, the coins, yes, inscriptions, pillars, architecture. So these are the sources. So we also get the informations regarding this Delhi Sultanate from the sources like coins, architectures of buildings, yes, mosque, even the travel log or the books written by the travelers. Okay, for example, the travel logs of Ibn Battuta, okay, that provide us the informations of the reign of Muhammad bin Tughlaq. Similarly, Hasan Nizami, his book provides us informations about Qutbuddin Aibak, and the literary work of Minhaj-e-Sirat that called Tabaqat-e-Nasiri that tells us about the Delhi Sultans. So similarly, even Ziauddin Barani, he wrote an account called Tariq-e-Firozshah. So these are the valuable sources through which we can get the informations of Delhi Sultanate. Okay, the first dynasty is slave dynasty. Okay, slave dynasty was founded by Qutbuddin Aibak. Okay, it was founded by Qutbuddin Aibak. Qutbuddin Aibak actually was a slave of Muhammad Ghori. He was a slave of Muhammad Ghori. Okay, and he was very able, so that's why he was appointed by Muhammad Ghori as a general of his army. He was not from any royal families like nobles, okay, feudalers, but actually he was a slave of Muhammad Ghori. Okay, so because of his ability, Muhammad Ghori appointed him as a general of his army. So after the death of Muhammad Ghori, Qutbuddin Aibak himself declared as a ruler of India, ruler of Delhi. Okay, this is how the slave dynasty started in India. So for his he was a very kind and able ruler. So for his generosity, he was called as Lakh Box. Lakh Box, okay, Lakh Box. He also built so many buildings, temples, mosques, especially the mosque, and among them the famous one is Quwat al-Islam. Understood? So slave dynasty was founded by Qutbuddin Aibak. He was a slave of Muhammad Ghori, and he was very able, so that's why Muhammad Ghori appointed him as a general in his army. So later, after the death of Muhammad Ghori, he himself declared as a ruler, and because of his generosity, he is known as Lakh Box. But after the death of Qutbuddin Aibak, his son-in-law Iltutmish, another important name, Iltutmish, became the ruler of slave dynasty, ruler of Delhi. Iltutmish was the son-in-law of Qutbuddin Aibak. Okay, Iltutmish faced many difficulties during his reign. Okay, he was able to check the Mongolian invasions, but instead he faced many difficulties. So he divided. It was a very vast empire at that time. So it was not possible for a single ruler to sit at the thrones and to define all the sectors of the empire. So that's why Iltutmish divided the empires into small units, that is known as iqtas. Okay, these are the small units. Okay, small villages, group of villages. So iqtas, okay, province, especially we call it province or provinces. So Iltutmish divided his kingdom to run smoothly into small units, provinces called iqtas. Okay, the nobles who hated the iqtas were known as iqtadars. Okay, so Iltutmish also introduced two important coin during his time. One was silver coin known as tanka. Silver coin, it's very important, students, silver coins, and another jital. Jital, that was copper coins. The famous and the important achievements of Iltutmish. Okay, so he introduced two important types of coins, tanka and jital. After his death, again another ruler, that female ruler Razia Sultana, ascended the throne. She was the Razia. We all know about Razia Sultana. So Razia Sultana was the first and the last Muslim women ruler who sat on the throne of Delhi alone. Okay, she was the daughter of Iltutmish. Okay, she was the daughter of Razia Sultana, was the daughter of Iltutmish. But the nobles or the other persons in the court did not accept her as their ruler, as she was a woman. So they conspired against her, and finally she got killed. Okay, so first it was Qutbuddin Aibak. Next Iltutmish, and then Razia Sultan. Okay, so Razia Sultana was killed by the nobles only. So after Razia Sultana, another ruler came to the throne, and he was Ghiyas-ud-Din Balban. Ghiyas-ud-Din Balban. Ghiyas-ud-Din Balban. He introduced an efficient spy system to keep a watch on the activities of the nobles, governors, or the other persons in his court, because earlier Razia Sultana was conspired through the throne only. So that's why he introduced an efficient spy system. He put forward the policy of divine rights of the king. Okay, and another important things he introduced in his kingdom was sajda. Underline the term sajda. Sajda, actually what is sajda? It was a practice where people were required to kneel and touch the ground with their forehead in salutations to the king. So that's why, because Balban himself considered as a follower of the god or saint by the god, so he introduced the practice of sajda. Balban maintained a very strict disciplines in the court and maintained a distance from the court, especially from the nobles, because he was well aware about the Razia Sultana's incidents. He crossed the revolt by Mayadi Rajputs and rebellions in the Doab area, which created a reign of terror. To protect the kingdoms from the attacks of Mongols, he constructed a strong forts on the frontier, especially in the borders areas. Personally also, he maintained a strict discipline. He was a very self-disciplined ruler. He quit drinking and indulging in excesses, okay. He never appeared casually in public life and dressed formally when outside his quarter. So he was a very able ruler, Ghiyasuddin Balban. He introduced the practice of sajda. He considered himself as a god. So he introduced even the system theory of divine rights of the kings, okay. So he was a very strict disciplined ruler, and even he maintained discipline in his court. So after Ghiyasuddin Balban, after the death of the Ghiyasuddin Balban, the slave dynasty started to collapse. Within 4 years only, the slave dynasty collapsed. The power struggle commenced amongst the other who had ambitions to take over the throne. So after the slave dynasty, after the death of Ghiyasuddin Balban, another dynasty came into existence. That was the Khalji dynasty. Khalji dynasty. Okay. And Jalaluddin Khalji was the founder of this dynasty. Underline, Jalaluddin Khalji was the founder of Khalji dynasty. So first it was slave dynasty, second one was Khalji dynasty. So unfortunately, Jalaluddin Khalji died soon. So after his death, after Jalaluddin Khalji's death, actually he was murdered by his nephew only. Jalaluddin Khalji was murdered by his nephew Alauddin Khalji. I hope you all have heard the name of Alauddin Khalji. Okay. So Jalaluddin Khalji, who was the founder of Khalji dynasty, was killed by his own nephew Alauddin Khalji. Alauddin Khalji was a great military commander. He was an able ruler, an ambitious ruler. To check the trend, he took some measures in his empire. He organized a successful and efficient spy system to check or to watch on the nobles and the governors. He was the first person who prohibited the sales of wines from the empires. Remember these things. And he confiscated the properties of the nobles which they had received as gift or grants. Apart from that also, he introduced few policies which were very important. One was economic policy. Economic policy of Alauddin Khilji is very important. Even revenue policies there. But economic policy is very important. Okay. So he redefined the economic policy. The measures he took for this were, number one, this is very important, underline, regulations of the prices of essential goods. He controls the sales of the items so that everyone could get them. Appointing inspector to ensure that traders sell the goods at the fixed rate only. The sellers were not allowed to sell their different commodities at their own price. They had to sell at the fixed price. Sending spices to keep check on any irregularities. So he introduced a very efficient spice system to watch on or to check on the irregularities. Keeping a check on weights and measure systems. Punishing the offenders also. And he was the person, Alauddin Khalji was the person who introduced the ration system in India. Remember, there is another important question, ration system. It was not the Britisher, not the Portuguese, not the Dutch or French who introduced the rationing system in India. It was Alauddin Khilji who introduced the ration system. in India. So these were the economic policies of Alauddin Khilji or Khalji. You can write Khilji also, okay, and Khalji also, Khi or Khe. Next one is revenue policy. So to ensure he maintained enough stocks of food and had enough money for his army. So he required the enough food and money to maintain the army, to raise the army. So that's why he redefined his revenue system also. So he collected taxes from the peasants, traders, artisans, the 30% to 50%, 30 to 50% of their annual incomes, they had to pay taxes to the rulers. So Alauddin Khalji especially collected these portions of these percentage of taxes just to raise or to maintain the army. To secure his kingdom also, he also constructed fort in the borderline frontiers area, especially in the northwest frontier, because northwest frontiers was the main point for the foreign invasions in India from the time immemorial. So strong armies were stationed at Multan, okay, and responsibility of defending the borders was given to experienced generals like Jafar Khan and Malik Kafur. Underline Malik Kafur. Malik Kafur was the most important, prominent leaders, generals during Alauddin Khalji's. So Alauddin succeeded in establishing a vast empire in India with the help of Malik Kafur. In the northwest, it extended up to the river Indus. In the east, extended the areas to Uttar Pradesh, Odisha, Bihar and some parts of Bengal also. In the north, the empire extended from Punjab to Vindhya. So most of the portions of the northern sector was occupied by Alauddin Khalji along with the help of his efficient general Malik Kafur. Okay, so after Alauddin Khalji, the Khalji dynasty came to an end, and the next dynasty, that was Tughlaq dynasty, started to arise. Okay, Tughlaq dynasty. Tughlaq dynasty was founded by Ghiyas-ud-Din Tughlaq. Tughlaq dynasty. Tughlaq dynasty. It was started by the founder of the Tughlaq dynasty was Ghiyas-ud-Din Tughlaq. So he came into power after defeating Khusru and killing him. After becoming the Sultan, he tried to win over the nobles who had helped him to come into the powers. So he restored the land to nobles which were taken away by the Alauddin Khalji. The famous fort of Tughlaqabad was built by him. Underline Tughlaq dynasty. After Khalji dynasty, Tughlaq dynasty, the founder of Tughlaq dynasty was Ghiyas-ud-Din Tughlaq, and he built the famous fort, that is Tughlaqabad, but he accidentally died within a short span of life, that is in 1325, and after his death, the another famous ruler Muhammad bin Tughlaq became the ruler. He ascended the throne. Muhammad bin Tughlaq. Muhammad bin Tughlaq was a great poet, scholar and Muslim and a brave general, but he did not allow the ulema to dominate him. Ulema, the term ulema. Ulema means the religious head, dharma guru. Okay, ulema means religious head, because that time not in the ancient times or in the Middle Ages, even in the beginning of the Middle Ages, the administrative sector was controlled by the religious sector. There was no separations. Okay, so ulemas means they were the religious head. So Muhammad bin Tughlaq did not want ulemas to dominate the administrative sectors. He was extremely ambitious, so he spelled out various policies to redefine his empire, and he introduced the three important policies, and because of these policies only, the empire started to decline. The Delhi Sultanate started to decline. The first policy was taxation in Doab, D-O-A-B. So Doab means, you have studied earlier, so what is Doab? It is a fertile land, okay? Fertile land of Ganga plain. Fertile land. Favorable for the agriculture. Okay. So, number one policy was taxation in Doab. It is very important, so that's why I am explaining in details. So, Muhammad bin Tughlaq needed money to expand his kingdom. Okay, so we require much more money, financial help to expand his empire and to raise his army. So that's why he increased the tax in the Doab regions. But the tax was increased at that time when the monsoon failed and agriculture failed miserably. So that's why it was difficult for the farmers, peasants to pay taxes. So that's why he became unpopular among the people. So that's why his policy, that taxation in Doab, failed actually. Number two, use of token currency. Like Iltutmish, who introduced these two types of coin, tanka and zita, he also tried to introduce a token currency systems in his empire. But the Iltutmish issued copper coins and kept their value at par with the gold and silver ones. Okay, he also tried to introduced a new types of currency, copper currency coins in his empire, but the scheme failed. Here also his second policy failed. Why? As the Sultan, as he did not keep a control over the issue of new coins. So many fake coins started to minting by the peoples at their own at a very large scale. So that's why the second scheme of use of token currency also failed. And the last one, the most important, transfer of capital. He shifted, because the empire was very big, yes, huge empire. So he shifted his capital from Delhi to Daulatabad, from north to south. Daulatabad means it's in the Deccan areas. Deccan areas means just below the Maharashtra, the southern sector. So he shifted his capital from Delhi to Daulatabad. Okay, Devangiri area in the Deccan was renamed as Daulatabad. Devangiri, later he renamed as Daulatabad. So while shifting from, and even he did not shift himself alone. Okay, he ordered even the common peoples of the north, all the nobles, okay, the court peoples, the feudalers, to shift along with him. So to shift from Delhi to Daulatabad, they required a huge budget, huge amount of financial support, which they lost. Okay. Then after a few years later, again he ordered the peoples of this Daulatabad southern portions to shift in the Delhis. So in these situations, from move to north to south and south to north, they lost so many monies. So again, the transfer of capital, the third policy failed. He became unpopular among the peoples. So his three policy, he introduced this three policy for the welfare of his state only, but it failed. All the three policy failed. Number one, taxation of Doab failed because the tax, he raised the tax was increased at the time when the monsoon failed and agriculture failed miserably. And next one, use of token currency, he introduced, but he did not keep a control over the issues of new coins. Okay, and the last one, transfer of capital. So to shift from the north to south and again to south to north, they lost lots of monies. So that's why all his three different taxation processes or schemes failed. Muhammad bin Tughlaq faced rebellion in different parts of his empire during the last year of his reign because his treasury almost became empty, and finally he died in 1351 CE. So after Muhammad bin Tughlaq, Firoz Shah Tughlaq became the ruler. He ascended the throne and he tried to improve agriculture and he really worked hard for the welfare of the peasants, because he knew very well the peasants' agriculture was the main source of income. So loans were waived off in case of droughts also. He provided the loans at a very low interest to the farmers. He constructed a number of canals and many wells to provide good irrigational facilities also. He imposed jizya system, that jizya was a tax, especially the non-Muslim they had to pay. And he was also a patron of learning. He got numerous Sanskrit books. He built so many mosques, masjid, okay. He abolished the practice of tortures also. He based judicial systems on Islamic laws. He built many sarayas or rent houses for the travelers. He was a kind person, so that's why he built sarayas. Sarayas means the rest houses especially for the travelers. But he was not an able warrior, as no significant conquest was made. So his successors were not very competent. His successors, the further generations, were not so competent, efficient or able like him. So after his death, not after his, even during his reign only, in the meantime only, the Turkish invasion started in India, and the Timur, the very famous invasions, Timur invasions, he invaded India in 1398 CE. Timur actually was a Turkish chief. He was a Turkish chief, okay, and he ruled that times. He ruled a vast empire in the Central Asia. So he attacked by saying the conditions of the rulers, weakness of the generals, okay, the emptiness of treasury. The Timurs or the Turkish invaders, they attacked Delhi and ordered a general massacre which ruined the city of Delhi. Actually, the invasion of Timur ruined the city of Delhi. He took away wealth of India to Central Asia. Already, Muhammad Ghori, who plundered India 17 times, so he plundered that, he made the India's treasures empty, and again another invasions, that invasion of Timurs, totally ruined the country. So after Firoz Shah Tughlaq, the Khizr Khan, the Sayyid dynasty started in India, and Khizr Khan established the Sayyid dynasty, underlined Khizr Khan. Okay, so this dynasty has four main rulers, namely Mubarak Shah, Muhammad Shah and Alam Shah, and among them Khizr Khan was the most powerful ruler. Again, after Khizr dynasty or the Sayyid dynasty, Lodi dynasty started in India. Balur Lodi of Afghan, he laid the foundation. He started the dynasty, new dynasty, that is Lodi dynasty. And later he was succeeded by Sikandar Lodi, who is considered as the greatest king of Lodi dynasty. Lodi, the Sikandar Lodi mainly, he re-established the dynasty that was left by his predecessors. Okay, so he extended, Sikandar Lodi, who was an able general, able ruler, he extended empire from Punjab to the borders of Bengal. Okay, so he was a great scholar and wrote poems in Persian language. After Sikandar Lodi, was succeeded by his son Ibrahim Lodi. Ibrahim Lodi succeeded his father in 1517 CE. He became unpopular among the nobles as he tried to replace some of the older nobles. So he tried, when he ascended the thrones, he tried to remove overthrew few nobles who conspired against the rulers. So that's why he was not liked by most of the nobles in his court. That's why he had to face lots of problem in his own court only. So during his time only, Babur, who was a Mughal, he came to India and he tried to invade India. Babur tried to invade India. He attacked India. So first battle of Panipat took place in 1526. Underline, first battle of Panipat that took place in 1526 CE. Okay. This is the most important. Between whom? Between Ibrahim Lodi and the and Babur, the Mughal ruler. So the first battle of Panipat took place in 1526 CE. Ibrahim Lodi was killed and the Delhi Sultanate finally came to an end with the death of Ibrahim Lodi during this first battle of Panipat in 1526. The whole Delhi Sultanate, the dynasty, came to an end and new era started in India. That was the Mughal dynasty. There are few sentences. Number one reason, lack of rulers of succession. There was no fixed rules of succession in the dynasties. There were bitter rivalries, and yes, even within the empires only, within this empires, within the court only, they conspired each others. Okay. There was no coordinations among them, no cooperations among them. So these was well known by the invaders. So this is one reason. Number two, power of the nobles. Nobles became powerful by having provinces to rule and control. So the time was like that. The king, they had to depend on nobles. Okay, and slowly the nobles, means the middlemen, they became more powerful than the rulers, because most of the taxes the nobles, they were collected, okay, and they deposited in their own treasury. So that's why the increasing range of the powers of the nobles was another reasons. And the next one, each ruler brought his own policies. There was no streamlinings in governance. Kings changed policy at will whenever it suited. So many rulers changed during that times, and whoever ascended the thrones, they introduced their own rules. So that was another reasons that the peoples or the nobles did not like them. Next one, the judicial and the administrative systems were not smooth and kept verifying. The administrative system was not running smoothly. Nobles, they were running administrations according to their own rules and regulations. Yes, at the central, king was there at the central, but instead of that, the main power was gained by the nobles. So the impositions of tax on non-Muslims started dividing the society. So the jizya, the famous jizya tax, which was imposed by Muhammad bin Tughlaq. Jizya was a tax mainly imposed on the non-Muslims, Hindus, okay. So they had the Hindus, they had to pay the taxes, a large amount of 50-60% of their early income they had to pay to the nobles and the rulers. So that's why the introductions of these tax systems, jizya, mainly jizya, divided the society into different groups. So this was the another reasons for the declinations of these empires. So the end of Sultanate brought about a change of rulers and dynasties by foreigners. The Mughal Empire set foot on the Indian subcontinent, and we shall study about them in the subsequent chapters. So this is how the Delhi Sultanate came to an end, and the Mughal dynasty started in India. Actually, during the time of Muhammad bin Tughlaq only, the foreign invaders, especially Timurs, yes, the Turkeys and the other invaders, they attacked India, and finally after Ibrahim Lodi, the total Delhi dynasty came to an end. It's a very easy, interesting chapter. Read it properly, thoroughly, okay, and while reading, make a timeline list. First it comes slave dynasty, then Khalji dynasty, then Tughlaq dynasty, Sayyid dynasty, Lodi dynasty. Then read like that. It will be easy for you. Okay, thank you students. Okay, let's do the question answer of this chapter. Number one, choose the correct options. Ibn Battuta came from Morocco, number one. Number two, literary works of Minhaj Siraz tell us about Delhi Sultanate. Number 1, 2. Number 3, copper jitals and silver tanka were introduced by Iltutmish. That is number 3. Number 4, a tax amounting to the peasants produced was known as kharaz. Number 4, 2. Number 5, practice of sajda was introduced by Balban. Number 2. Number 6. Malik Kafur was the general under Alauddin Khilji. So it's number 2. Number 7, famous fort of Tughlaqabad was built by Ghiyasuddin Tughlaq. Number 3, okay. Then some important towns like Hisar, Jaunpur, etc. were built by Firoz Shah Tughlaq. Number 8, 3. Number 9, the ruler who had to cancel all his policies was Muhammad bin Tughlaq. So it's number 3. Number 10, under the rule of Muhammad bin Tughlaq, the capital was shifted from Delhi to Devagiri. Devagiri is also known as Daulatabad. Number 11, Timur's invasion gave a severe blow to Tughlaq dynasty. Number 3 and number 12, Doab was area located between Ganga and Yamuna rivers. So that is 2. Okay. Fill in the blanks. Number 1, Kutubuddin Aibak. Number 2, Alauddin Khalji. Number 3, Devagiri. You can write Daulatabad also. Number 4, that is Khizr Khan. Number 5, Sikandar Lodi. Number C, write true or false. Number 1, Iltutmish was called Lagbox. So that was false. Number 2, true. Number 3, again true. Number 4, Ibrahim Lodi laid down the foundation of Lodi dynasty. That is false. Number 5, first battle of Panipat took place in 1528. False. Now match the followings. Sajda, Balwan, Khizr Khan, Sayyid dynasty, shifting of capital, Muhammad bin Tughlaq, Qawat al-Islam, Kutubuddin Aibak, Hisar, Firoz Shah Tughlaq, Kharaz, Alauddin Khalji, Babur, ruler of Kabul. Now next, the short answers, okay. Question number E1. Name 5 dynasties which ruled Delhi from 1206 to 1526 E. The Slave dynasties, the Khalji dynasties, the Tughlaq dynasty, the Sayyid dynasty and the Lodi dynasties were the dynasties which ruled Delhi from 1206 to 1526 CE. Question number 2. Why did Iltutmish organize a team of 40 loyal slaves? Iltutmish organized a team of 40 loyal slaves to check the powers of nobles. What were the duties of muktis? The duties of muktis were to maintain law and order and to collect revenues. Who was Razia Sultan? Why did the nobles not accept her as the ruler? Razia, or she, was the first and the last woman ruler to sit on the throne of Delhi. The nobles did not accept her as the ruler because she was a woman. Number 5, what measures were taken by Alauddin Khalji to secure the northwest frontiers? He repaired the old forts to secure northwest frontiers. Strong armies were stationed at Multan and responsibilities of defending the borders was given to the experienced generals like Malik Kafur. Number 6, list any 2 welfare measures of Firoz Shah Tughlaq. Number 1, he constructed a number of canals and many wells to provide good irrigational facilities. Number 2, he abolished the practice of torture, And the long question number 1, how do we come to know about the Delhi Sultanate? From the coins, architectures of buildings, mosque, accounts of foreign travelers and court chronicles, these provided informations about the Delhi Sultanate. For example, Ziauddin Barani, who wrote an account called Tariq-i-Firoz-e-Shahi, gives us details of the Delhi Sultanate. Question number 2, what steps were taken by Balban to strengthen his hold over the kingdom? So there are so many points given in your books. So I have written 3 points, okay. He introduced an efficient spy system to keep a watch on the nobles. Number 2, he put forward the policy of divine rights of kings. Number 3, he introduced the practice of sajda, S-I-J, okay, sajda. Number 3, explain in detail about the economic policies of Alauddin Khilji. He maintained enough stocks of foods and he raised the tax level of 50% of the produce. This was known as kharaj. The land revenue was based on calculations of yield. All land were declared as state land. In addition to this, he even imposed taxes on the animals, especially cattle and horses as well. Number 4, write in details about the policies of Muhammad bin Tughlaq. This is the very important. Number 1 was taxation in Doab. He increased the tax on the Doab. Doab was a very fertile area, but this policy failed as many people ran away to the forest. Why? To avoid heavy taxes. So the taxes were again imposed when the monsoon failed, and even the agriculture failed miserably. Number 2 schemes, that was use of token currency. He introduced token currency. The scheme failed as the Sultan did not keep a control over the issue of the new coins. And the last scheme, that was the last policy, that was transfer of capital. He shifted his capital from Delhi to Devangiri. Devangiri is also known as Daulatabad. You can write Daulatabad also. And ordered the peoples to shift to Devangiri. But later, when he realized that the control of northwest frontiers was impossible from the south, he again ordered his peoples to return back to Delhi. So this policy also failed as the empire faced huge loss of people and the property. Question number 5. Give reasons for the decline of the Delhi Sultanate. So there are many reasons for the decline of the Delhi Sultanate. Number 1, there were no fixed rules of succession. There were rivalries among the subordinates due to jealousy only. Number 2, the nobles were powerful than the kings. So these nobles assumed themselves into smaller states. Number 3, each ruler brought his own policies. Number 4, the impositions of heavy taxes on non-Muslims started dividing the society, not only society, dividing the country. So you can check the answers from the school website. So study well, stay safe at home. Thank you.